As I look upon my life, there's a passion inside. Heaven knows I'm living my dreams. As I look upon my life, there's a passion inside. Heaven knows I'm living my dreams.
Good morning, everybody. Greetings to you on this cold Thursday morning. It is October, but it's cold, it's chilly, and I don't know where the snow is. Is it Cape Town? Is it Durban? Like the last time. So I don't know. And I'm sure in these places it's a little bit warmer. We get all the cold from the mountains. Yeah, so that is what it is. But yeah, we are alive and well, and we thank God that we can see another day. So we rejoice actually for the life that we have. So yeah, we on the Inside Show with none other than Talk with Joan Thursdays. And so I have important people in the room with me here today. And and we're speaking on the topic, the transition. So this is a very, very important topic, and I know a lot of people actually would like, especially, I heard this, I don't know if it's a phrase or what, but they say you actually have to take the baton out of the hand of the older or elderly leader in the grave.
The predecessors.
Yeah. So that is something that is food for thought, right? So I actually would like you to engage with us on the Inside Show on YouTube, and then just give your sixpence and comment. And we will see how we can actually answer your questions, or actually we will read what you actually comment on, and so on and so on and so on. But not to waste any time, if you are made leader, that is our mirror question, right? So if you get out your mirror before I'm going to ask these beautiful people to just introduce themselves and say hi to you. They don't actually need introduction, by the way. But yes, they actually are the new lead pastors of Crystal Church. So yes, and that is why we are having the transition for the topic. And I know I talk to a lot of first ladies out there, and they actually want to know, so now what? How did you do it? And how did you get to do it? And so on and so on. But yeah, my question for the mirror today is actually, if you are made a leader of anything, maybe the country, but a leader of a big organization, what will your first change be?
I'll hand over to you so that you can lead us into this.
Yeah, but I'm first going to ask these people, you must be getting out your mirror, right? And that girlfriend or that boyfriend looking back at you will know what to do when you are made a leader. All right, so yeah, is it a tough question?
I think
a little bit.
I think for me, yeah, I think it's a little bit of a tough question, but I think it's a necessary question. I think it gives food for thought. So I think our guest here today,
man,
he can lead us into this.
So yeah, actually, before we go into that question, while you're getting out your mirror, they can actually just say hi to you, right? So yeah, say hi to the people.
Okay, so. Well, I'm co-host, so I'm just going to say hi to everybody here today. And then I get to introduce the love of my life, my ride or die, the man who's by my side and my confidant. I'm going to introduce him here today. Welcome, baby, to the show, Xavier Hendricks.
Yay! Morning, family. Thank you so much. We meet again. As you guys know, obviously, I have a show on Mondays, but it's always nice to jump in on the other shows and listen to the conversation and jump in on the topic. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this topic. It's a topic, obviously, that's very personal to me, particularly. Because of where I find myself in my journey at the moment. So, yeah, man, let's get into the topic. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So if we look into the mirror, so what will you change if you are made the CEO or the leader of a company or any organization for that matter?
Ooh, me. Must
Yes.
I start?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first thing I need to look at when I'm made the leader, a big thing that stands out to me is the team, because gathering a good team around you
Yeah,
is
that's
important. So if you have a quality team around you, there's no man can do anything by himself, or no woman can do anything by herself. You need the right people in your space, and with the right people in your space, you excel a lot quicker. So, but here's the thing: the right people only come when there's a vision. And so the first thing I would do is then ensure that I got a proper vision, and then gather the right people around the table, and then share that vision, and then take it from there. And you should be able to start seeing growth, especially if you got good quality people
Yeah,
in your
absolutely
space.
so.
Yes, but
Absolutely.
I think for me personally, it depends on what the situation is. Have you been around the whole time, or are you just showing up now when you're being made the leader? I think the dynamic, the difference in the dynamics is that if you just showed up, that means that you have to establish that team. You have to first, take your time to see what is happening in the space, who is who, because a lot of the times there's a bit of turbulence when that change comes in and people feel unsettled because they don't know what's new, what the new vision is. So just to make the people first feel comfortable and see who will work with you, who won't work with you.
Absolutely.
If you've been around for the longest time and you've been cultivated for that position, I think there's a difference in that people now are used to you. People can now accept you more easily and more readily. So the stride is easier then to fall into, so that you don't have to make subtle and abrupt changes. So for me, I think the first change that you would then make in that space would then just to make the people understand that you are strong enough to take on this task, and that that you're ready to work with who's willing to want to work with you. That would be my take.
Right, okay. So you actually heard from the people who actually is in this transition at the moment. So yeah, and they actually leading Crystal Church at the moment. So it is such an honor to actually hear from them themselves, because you will only learn and understand what is happening if you're in the situation, right? So actually, there's something that I actually found that the relay race offers profound insights into effective leadership with 3 distinct phases. And I know when you look at a relay race, that is actually what's happening when you give the baton over, from one generation to another, or from one management to another. You know what I'm saying? So it is so important to actually then know what to do within the transition. So you actually look, and this is what I know my husband looked at. It is not pushing, the thing and just let it be.
Yeah.
No, you have to actually think clear, actually take the strides. And so if you look at the relay race, you see the 3 phases. That is receiving the baton from someone who is running with the baton, right? So receiving the baton, and then also running your leg of the race with the other person who's actually receiving the baton, and then handing off the baton so that the next person can run. So you guys are in the situation at the moment. So I have Pastor Xavier and Pastor Anka here with me, and they actually with us, taking the baton from myself and my husband, Carl Hendricks. So that is why it is so such an honor, actually, to speak to them, to hear. So where are you in this transition, or how can I put it? Let's start by the beginning. How was the beginning? You know, when you actually had to, or how can I say? You're in the phase of the
When you had to
leg, where you're running.
when you had to step into stride, basically.
Yes.
To run along now.
To,
Yeah.
to run along.
So I would say this, right? This is a very this can become a controversial conversation, especially in the church space, right? And because we're in the church space, it's the space I'm familiar with. And the reason I'm saying it becomes controversial is because if you don't do this transition correctly, it's where the church dies out,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
And so we've seen it across the board multiple times. I've been to churches personally where I come to the church and I can see here the pastor is in his late 60s. There's no more young people at the church. Everyone has left the church already. There's no transition plan in place here.
You actually find pastors that's 70 and over, and there's no energy, really.
And it's interesting because I was actually having this conversation with Anka, is that a lot of times an organization goes with the leader, right? And so if the leader is going through a difficult season, the organization goes through a difficult season. If the leader come and make an example. If the leader is getting older and tired, right? The leader ends up having less things. Like, for example, we were having this conversation. If you were having, let's say, what the church understands as home cell groups, right? Every week. And later on, the leader starts feeling like,
Tired, yeah.
I don't have less to go
Yeah,
to this.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
have this thing once a month.
Yeah.
Or let's have this thing once a quarter or something like that. Because he's not feeling to do it. It kind of now ripples down to the rest of the organization, right? And then later on, the whole thing starts kind of fizzling away. You find later on, and it's natural because you're getting older, your mindset is different, things are changing. And here's the thing that a lot of the older generation needs to understand, and including us, because we now stepping into that space where we complain about the music the young people listen to because we can't hear what they're talking about. Now we're finding ourselves sounding more and more like the previous generation. What are you listening to? We can't hear this. These are things our parents used to say to us.
True, yes.
Right? And so we have to keep on guarding ourselves from not becoming like that too. It's like, let me not stifle the next person, because I had to find myself, when I handed over the youth ministry to a younger generation, they did things differently. And I was very successful in my youth ministry. So there's a degree of, I know how to do this and I know how to do it right and I know how to get the level of success. However, I have to keep checking myself. I have to keep telling myself, hey, dude, things have changed. These people see things in a different way. There's a different energy in the air now. There's something else going on. What's wrong?
I know.
Can you hear
It's
me?
loud.
Oh, it's very loud.
Oh, Click, can you just drop this a little bit, please? It's loud in the headphones. There's a different... The time is different.
Yeah.
The way people reason is different. The way people respond to things are different. When I was running certain things, or when you were running certain things, there was no Facebook, there was no Instagram, there was no YouTube, there was no just pay online.
Yeah, that's true.
Those things didn't exist at all. Now, there's a lot of things you can do online. People can pay online. So we're getting ready for a big event coming up. And we used to print tickets and sell it in the foyer.
Right.
Now, I just tell people, bro, just send everyone the link and let them buy it that way.
Yes.
Let them book their seats that way. Let them do that, because we used to do things because we didn't have that technology. But now the technology changed. Now you want to come here, print tickets, waste paper, waste money. You sit in there, and the people are wondering, now you're waiting only for a Sunday. Now you only have 4 Sundays in a month. Now I'm saying, guys, but we can utilize this week differently, because we have the whole week now. We can push this online on social media. People can buy it during the
That's
week.
correct, yes.
But the point I'm making is that times
Things
change.
that changed, yeah.
And if you, and back to the first point that I made, if you are still trying to figure out, how do I now again open my this? And the youngsters, they're typing so
that's
fast,
correct,
doing things.
yes.
By the time you figure out how to open an app, this guy has 100,000 views on his
Yeah,
video.
yeah.
So it's different. And the best thing for you to then do is to identify, and I was having this conversation with Llewellyn yesterday, and we were busy practicing for this event that we're talking about. And there's somebody in our team that has the strength of dancing. And I said to him, the good thing about leadership is that even though I'm a good leader,
That's
even
very
though
true.
our leader that's leading
So
our
true.
team is a strong leader and
That's
she has a big position in a
Yes.
workplace and whatever, you have to identify if this person, we're doing a
strength,
dance here,
knowledge,
and
yeah.
this person can
Strength in
dance.
that
Yeah.
area.
Let this person lead us
Yeah.
because clearly they know what they're doing.
Yes,
And so
that's right.
I know I went all over, but the point I'm making is that as the previous generation, you need to firstly identify that the time has changed, and that's the point I was making. Secondly, I have to identify that there's other people that might have strengths that you don't have.
Yeah.
And you need to utilize those strengths. And
Yeah.
then thirdly, you also need to get to the point where you realize, you know what? My mindset is different. I'm in a different season of
That's
my
correct,
life.
yes.
I don't have less to go and sit somewhere now the
No,
whole
very
night
true,
and
eh?
come home late from practice.
Yeah.
So let another old run here.
That's
Because
correct.
I'm stifling
Because
this thing.
you have more energy.
Yeah.
You know, and you have more zest.
But I also think that a lot of that stems where a lot of leaders feel like this thing is not going to work if I am not there. I need to
Right,
be there. So
right,
now
right.
that's why when he gets tired, there's less consistency now because it's
Right.
like, okay, fine, let's do this once a month. And the true essence of a leader is really measured in his ability to build something and walk away, and it's still sustainable. It can still work when he
Right.
has walked away because
Right.
that means that he was successful in that area. And I think there's a lack in that space basically. So which means that if dad has invested in you as a leader and he's taught you how to do this thing and you are now able to run without him, his measure of leadership is so much greater because it's like, okay, I've invested, I've taught, I've created a protege and he now needs to duplicate. It's the continuity.
But where, if I be honest with you, where I see a lot of the previous generation leaders make a mistake, right, is where they link their identity to the organization, right? And so, like, let's say my father started Crystal Church 32 years ago, and his whole identity is wrapped in Crystal Church. So, if he is not the senior of Crystal Church, he has no identity.
That's correct.
And that's where the mistake comes.
And I think that is a problem. That is actually what's happening, and that hence the older generation don't want to.
You can't let go because if I give you this thing, I'm giving you my whole life. Now who am I now?
Yeah.
'Cause this
And
is-
I think that is what is happening.
This is
you
my
know.
life. I don't like this thing. This is my life. This is what I've built my whole career. This is my blood, sweat, and tears. This is what I left my work for. This is what my relationship
I put
almost
everything in it.
my relationship
Yeah.
almost suffered because of this thing. This is my thing. I put everything into this. My children almost went astray because I wasn't home because I was trying to
Yeah.
make this thing work. And so it makes sense for somebody to come and say, I poured my life into making this thing a success.
And which is true. Which is true. There's a part of it that you can understand. Hence, you have to evolve yourself, and you have to have plans for the future for yourself as an individual, and that is for everybody. You know, in any career, you find that there's a lot of CEOs, you know, of companies who put their everything into the company per se. You know what I'm saying? And at the end, when the energy grows lower, then they don't know how to hand over to the next generation. Maybe their children, maybe they don't have children and they have to hand over to someone else. It is important then to do introspection well in advance to know that the day that I hand over, what is my next step?
But sorry, before you say that, I want to actually just echo what you're saying because I almost want to say it's too late by the time you get to that realization. Because by that point, you should have already been thinking, hey, bruh,
So
I need to see how I'm going to play this now. Because if I'm now already in my late 60s, and now I'm trying to, hey, what am I going to do with this thing? I'm getting tired and I don't have less to run this anymore.
I think as a leader, it's important to take the grand scheme of things into consideration, meaning that I have children. What is my plan? If this is where I'm putting in my life, what is my plan? Does it end with me? Does it end with my children? Where does it end? Growing up, there used to be this shop that we used to go and buy things at like a grocery shop, and there was this man who opened the shop. It was his life. Doesn't matter which time of the day you came there, that old man was standing in that shop because this was his life. He built this legacy for his children. When he died, his children sold the place. They wanted nothing to do with the place.
Yeah, look at that place here, not far from
where we live
from
behind
where we
there.
live.
Yes,
You
his
know,
children sold it.
They sold
same,
it.
It's the
And
exact same situation.
I went past there the other day, and
It's
it
the house to
looks
let, eh?
terrible.
It
yeah.
looks, and it's dilapidated.
High shame.
And that thing was running properly
It
when
was
the old
running.
man was
Yes,
alive.
It was a
Yes.
business he had specifically with this situation.
He actually had,
He owned all those farms there.
had trees and fruits and stuff that he actually planted.
He manufactured stuff. I
Yo.
mean, we bought dairy products and everything from
From his cows that he had on his farm.
on his farm, but his children wanted nothing to do with it. So it becomes a matter where, how do you view this? Do you view this is my legacy and it will continue through my children, which now means that I need to cultivate and cultivate that love within my children, or am I going to make them resent it? How? Because this is mine and this is going to work the way I want it to work, or it's going to fall apart if I am not there. And then you create a resentment and there's no continuity, so there's no legacy. So it dies with you. What is your vision for that? And I think it's very important to take that into consideration, that yes, your children may not have a love for it, but they may be capable. How do you? I know of children, when we grow up, we idolize our parents. We want to do what they want to do.
Yeah,
we want to be.
absolutely.
And there comes a time when that transition takes place, when we do want to find our own identity. But how was this thing painted for us? As net werk. What is it? What is it that you want to instill in your children to create that continuity? And if you don't have children, who are you choosing for this legacy to continue? How are you cultivating to say, okay, fine, it's going to work because I've already established it. This is the tools that you need for it,
Yeah.
but it's not going to fall apart when I am not there.
That's correct, yes. So there are three, actually, there's 3 C's of change leadership. It's communication, it is collaboration, and it's commitment. So if I must look at the transition, and I see where you guys are at now, or looking at the relay race, first and foremost, my first question is, where do you find yourself now?
Me
Right.
personally.
Yeah, where do you find yourself now? Are you still in the, I don't know, do you have the baton, or are you running out, are you
Okay.
running the leg of the race?
Yeah, so at the moment where I am at the moment now, I don't completely have the baton. I would say it's at the moment it's like a 50-50 baton now.
Okay.
So if you think about that relay race, it will probably be in that space there where
Yeah,
where you
yeah. The leg
running
of-
where you're
yeah,
running
yeah,
together. Yeah.
I would say, I would agree, yeah.
I
I know with you it's different.
Yes, with me it's different because I didn't grow up in this atmosphere. I didn't grow up when this is how things are done. So I had to learn gradually. And also it wasn't a life that I was like, this is the life I covered. I aspire to, I want this thing. So Ma really had to push me off the edge, like a couple of times to say, no, but you are capable. And I think I found myself in the space of Moses the whole time. Yeah, Mike, I don't speak properly, or I don't understand this culture. And Ma would say, no, but you can, you have the capability. And I think that for me was different. So a lot of the times when I have to do something, then I'm standing there very scared with the baton in my hand, but Ma still got the baton and saying, come along, you can do this. And I think that's the beauty in it for me. It's finding my own strengths and purpose in that, but knowing that, we have the grace, God has the grace to say, okay, fine, I'm going to show you the ropes, but I'm not going to leave
Yeah.
you. I'm not going to leave you there. I think it would have been a sad situation had you not been there at all, and now we have to swim and figure this thing out.
Yeah,
It would have been.
it's actually a privilege, to have, your predecessors, or how do you say?
Yes.
To actually
To still be there.
to still be alive and to still be in the vision, you know what I'm
Yes.
saying, and to actually show you the ropes. And many times you find that the younger generation are so quick, they don't want to do certain things that you already know this thing is gonna
Already
be.
see.
Yeah, you see, because you have experience in it. You know, because you've run this race, so you see the loopholes. And many times I find that the younger generation also sometimes is so impatient with the process, and they want things to happen now. You know, it's the microwave a generation, if I may put it that way.
So remember, this generation came up in a time where things happen instantly.
That's correct.
When we were coming up, there was no internet.
Yes.
When internet became a thing, I was already in high school. Then you would have to wait for what they call the dial-up tone. Then it does it.
And no one can use the telephone.
Yeah, that's for the phone, yeah.
Then you have
Then
to
you
wait
ask
for the
for the-
thing
yeah.
to dial up.
Yeah.
Then if you want to open the image, you click on the image, you wait probably an hour for that image. It loads like one line at a time. And then when I was done with school, only then, I had Nokia still that time, 6210 and whatever, that didn't have color screen, that didn't have fast 3G network. That time
We were
3G
very
was
excited
quite.
for polyphonic ringtones.
Yeah, with polyphonic ringtone, when the ringtone sounded like a song, it was like, oh, yeah, this ringtone, it sounded like a
Yeah.
real song. And that was the generation we grew up in, so we understood that things don't happen quickly. We grew up in a generation you had to wait for the newspaper. We grew up in a generation where the TV stopped after 9 o'clock or whatever time the TV
End of
stopped.
transmission.
And then end of transmission, it has that circle with a yellow and blue and green lines. And it shows now that it's done. You must wait for the so
Screen
everything
time
was
is over.
Yeah, screen time is over. Everything we had to wait for. We had a generation when you're watching a movie, there's an advert that plays, and the advert plays long. My children now watch a movie on SABC. If an advert plays, they don't ever watch SABC. But if we somewhere like that, skip the advert. You can't skip the advert. It's TV.
Yeah, because they're
Because-
so used to it.
They're used to it, and also they will never know what it felt like if we needed to go to the toilet. You had to wait for that break so that you can quickly run to
Go
the toilet.
quickly
because
and
you can't
come back
rewind.
because you can't
Yeah.
rewind, you can't pause, you can't skip the advert. But because the generation has shifted to 4G, 5G, you open your phone, things are instant. You download something, it comes immediately. You do something, it happens immediately. It created exactly what you're saying. This false impression that success comes overnight. And what happens is that a lot of these celebrities and a lot of these popular people, they show you the successful parts of their lives. They
That's
show you the
correct,
things
yes.
where things are
Yeah,
working and
they don't
things
show
are happening.
you-
They
yeah,
don't show you the
the
process. They don't
difficulties.
show you the journey.
Yes.
You just, yeah, but this guy is driving a Lambo. Yeah, those people are traveling. Yeah, but they're not telling you how long it took them to get
Yeah.
there, how they had to
What
struggle
they
to
had
get
do
exactly.
to get there.
Yeah.
I think
And it's a process. It's a process.
But I think something that is fundamentally important to understand is that there needs to be balance. Because yes, there's a transition taking place, and it's two different generations where it's a microwave generation and a generation that took a bit of time to get used to the process. However, there needs to be a sense of teachability in terms of I need to be teachable in order for you to download that, and you need to give me the space to sort of like, okay, you try that. You must also have a bit of failures or whatever, try, or you have your successes, but there must be that guidance. So there must be that balance where it mustn't be a thing of, yeah, but this is our generation now and I'm going to do it my way. Why can't you just give me the space to do what I need to do when you can clearly see you're going to fail.
Absolutely.
You're going to fail. So there must be that balance where there is space for me to grow, but also I must be able to be taught in that space.
That's right. And teachability is vital when it comes to transition. You have to have a teachable spirit to be actually want to go further. You know, so there are a few fundamental things within the transition, like communication, you know, and looking at the leadership that your previous pastor, because we're speaking church here now, your previous pastor had, and now you have to ride along. You know what I'm saying? How do you find certain things at the moment? How would you communicate that? Listen, because if you have a clear vision and people understand the vision, it's easier for them to run with the vision. So how would you communicate the vision to your team? Because you have to have the team who is actually pushing with you. But remember now, if you don't have a clear vision, the team wouldn't know what you want. So I think it is of vital. It's vital, guys. It's important to actually understand that the team who's working and pushing me as the leader must know that this is what I want. So what would you say? Because there will be changes, because it's a younger generation that you are now pastoring. So what would be the changes, or maybe I can't say the changes on this platform, but what would you do with the team to bring clarity to what you want?
So this is how it actually really goes down, right? From experience now. You have two types of people. You have the people, and God blessed us in a particular way where I was able to be visible all throughout. So I was a pastor for 14 years in the organization. I was preaching once or twice a month already this whole time. So anyone who joined the church for the past 10 years already knows me. It's not it's not some pastor that used to live in Bloemfontein and now he has to come over here and take the church over, and after people don't like him and there's this auntie there that she controls the finances of the church, so she does, like how you see in these movies.
That's a called church.
Like how you see in this. Like how you see it in the movies, or how you know it happens in different churches, right? It wasn't that way. With me, it was a way where when people joined the church, they found me. People who joined the church for the past 14, 15 years found me preaching already, found me leading teams already, found me. So that transition made my journey, I would say, 80% smoother. So you find people, you do however find people who feel like, no, I got saved when your father preached. I came here under your father's leadership. I got this and this and so...
Yeah, so now I like what Bishop said on Sunday, Bishop Gans, where he said the congregation mustn't see Carl in a younger form. They must see Xavier. Xavier must do Xavier and not Carl.
So I need to be strategic about how I do Xavier, right? Because Xavier has these wild ideas to do some big changes. But at the same time, Xavier needs to understand that there's people who've been here for 30 years.
That's correct.
There's people who've been here for 20 years.
That's correct.
I can't just toss the whole thing over.
Right.
It's going to cause chaos and damage, and it's just going to be all over the place.
You have to be wise.
So
you have to be wise
exactly
how to maneuver the thing.
And I think something that's also very important is to note that these people that have been there for 30 years cannot be just discarded.
Absolutely, because they put everything into it.
They put everything. They've also put their lives into this, just like the previous leader.
And they're not just here; they commit.
They commit. And what you find is those people will generally, well, in our space, is generally your very supportive people. Because what's important for us now to do is make sure that we include them in whatever transition or whatever changes we make. So
because they're actually your springboards.
They are.
Exactly.
They're actually your eyes and your ears, and they watch out for you.
And what's important is when that vision, because there is going to be a slight change in the vision now because of the transition.
So.
It's important to include them and make them secure to know that I'm not getting rid of you. I'm not going to just discard you. I need you to run this place.
Can I give you an example
awesome.
of a real life situation, right? I had a team leaders that were vulnerable to me. When we had our team meeting with those team leaders, they were vulnerable to me. They said to me straight, we've been on this journey with your father for years. We had to sit down and ask ourselves, how are we going to play this moving forward with a new leader? They were open and vulnerable. And I'm matured enough to understand that.
Absolutely.
And
so.
I said to them, listen, yeah, no harm, no foul. I'm matured enough to understand that it's a reasonable way to see this thing. It makes sense for you to think the way you're thinking. It makes sense. You put time, you put effort, you've been here for years, da 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 da. And they were uncertain about, are they now going to be
Yeah,
discarded? Are they
that's
now
right.
old?
That's
Are they now
right.
this and this?
It's even so in a corporate world. It's the same thing because you now think they taking over. So
They're going to kick me
Ah,
out or what?
retrenchment,
But come and
yeah.
tell you,
going to
come and
happen.
tell you the most beautiful part about how this thing plays out. I say to them, no. Remember, I was here when you started this thing with
Yeah.
my father. I saw you walk this journey with him. So I can't now come and say, nah, Shap, I don't need you anymore.
We're going to put someone else
Plus,
in that place now.
this particular team leaders, when they pull something off, they
works.
pull it off with high quality, proper stuff. They put things together properly. So I said to them, listen here, if all else, you are the ones that are gonna help us take this thing to a next level. Because when you
Absolutely
do
so.
things, you do things properly.
Properly,
You get things
yeah.
done. You pull out stops. You do things properly. Guess what? So far, for the past month or two, I've been having meetings with this team probably once a week. Ne? The relationship now with this team is probably now the strongest one. This is now probably the strongest one I have out of all the other teams. And remember, this is the team that was unsure in the beginning.
Right.
Am I still needed? Am I still wanted?
But you
There's a
see
new
why
person
there was-
coming in. Is he going to discard us? And now look how strong this relationship. And guess what? This team, when they pull something off, they pull it off on such a high level.
And
So
I
there's
think
clarity.
There's clarity. And what is so important to understand is we are in the business of relationships. We are in the business of getting to know people. People are our products. So it's so important when it comes to your top tier leadership and leadership that's been there for the past 30 years to create that, to build that relationship, get to know your leadership, spend the time, make sure that they know that you care about them.
Can I say something? I would argue that this particular team has actually come to life more than they've been alive for the past year or two.
Yeah.
They've
Yeah.
they've
I'm
literally come to life like, yes, let's do this thing. Where are we going next? What do you
Yeah,
want to do now? Where,
fully-
what
fully
happens
agree.
next? Where do we go?
There's a
There's
cause.
so much excitement now.
Yes.
Okay,
And-
you're
and
gonna
to me,
read.
that's
you're gonna read a
important.
few.
Yeah, let me just bring in the comments real quick. We've got Lady J. Good morning, amazing peeps. Bernice Boysons. Hello, Aunt Denise. Says, good morning, pastors. And then we've got Sims Butalezi here. Says, I like what Pastor Xavier is saying. When a baton is passed on in a relay race, the person handing over runs with you until you hold the baton with a grip that you don't drop it. That's so beautifully said. Llewellyn Oliver.
Yeah, because if you drop it, you are disqualified.
Disqualified.
Yeah.
Right, you mess up if
You
I
can
drop
mess
the thing,
up.
the whole
You
32
can
years
mess up.
gone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gone.
And then Llewellyn Oliver says, such an insightful conversation. Good morning, my pastors. And then Jeremy says that, good morning, pastors, really good conversation. And Llewellyn comes back in to say, a structured leadership transition allows for a smoother shift in leadership while ensuring that the church remains focused on its mission and continues to grow spiritually. Lady J says, Pastor Zakes, your wisdom is admirable. Love what you say, you're considerate to all generations. That takes a high level of maturity.
So can I just say this, ne? I'm busy with a project now that Anka doesn't like, ne? But I just had to kind of close my eyes and do it, right? And it's my fish tank. Ne?
A
So
big one.
It's not that I don't like. Let me clarify. It's not that I don't like it.
It's the size
It's
of
the
it.
size of
it's
it.
a massive
Takes
fish
out-
tank.
So-
That takes up the whole space.
So, if you just give background, when it started out with COVID, you had this small fish tank, and you promised me, beyond a shadow of a doubt, it will come back to the office. That small fish tank
Then it grew.
has grown into a 1.5 meter tank in my house.
So, but here's the point I want to make. I had a 1 meter fish tank, ne? It's now a 1.5 meter fish tank. I had to transfer 8 fish from the smaller tank to the bigger tank. But I had to do it in such a way, right? So what I did was I first took out, because I had to take, and just stick with me on this analogy because it's literally what I'm doing in church right now. And literally what my father's doing in church. It has to be done in this way. I had to, first of all, there's nutrients there's what they call nitrates in the water, so the fish can breathe and the fish can swim and the fish can do whatever. Now I have what they call a biofish tank, which has real plants in it. It doesn't have those plastic plants and stuff. There's real plants, real stuff in. So what happens every time the fish mess, it goes into the soil, it allows the plants to grow, and this whole biochemical as a nice. And so whenever I show someone a video of my fish tank, they always ask me, how do you get the water so clean? How do your fish look so healthy? It's because of the process. But now this process cannot be disturbed. By any means, this process cannot be disturbed. So what do I have to do? I had to systematically and slowly start pouring out some of the water from the old tank and start pouring some of the water into the new tank, right? Then I had to systematically take more water out of the old tank into the new tank. Then when it got to a certain point, I had to take the substrate, which is the soil. Before I took the soil, I had to take all the plants out and put it into water on the side. Take the soil out and start putting the soil. Take the plants out and start replanting the plants. Take the driftwood out and start repositioning the driftwood. Then only I could take some of the fish out systematically and slowly and start putting them back into this new water. Then the temperature of the water can kill the fish. The sudden change of how quick you pour the water in can kill the fish. If you pour the water fast in, it upsets the substrate, which means you throw the water in hard and then all the sand from the bottom starts bubbling up, makes the water dirty, it creates a gemors. Now, you have to systematically do these things slowly but surely every day. Put a little bit more water, takes this thing. Now when somebody looks at this thing, they say, yo, look how beautiful this tank looks. But the process of doing it was slow and tedious and took long. And now, this is it's a thing that I want to make. I can't get to the word now. The example or not ideology. What is the word? Finance example where you will mark. The example I want to make, right, is that when I was putting the one fish into this net, these fish they go. Analogy is the word. The fish are going crazy, and I'm trying to show this fish, dude. I literally have a massive tank for you, where you're going to grow bigger, you're going to be able to swim further, you're going to swim higher, there's new plants in this tank. But he doesn't understand this. He thinks,
yes,
where's this out taking me? Hey, what's going on here? And it's busy fluttering here in the thing.
Yeah.
And as soon as I drop it into this new tank, this fish is like, yeah, bro, look at us. There's more space to swim. There's a nicer environment for me to grow. I can get bigger. And this analogy I'm making is the same thing. Where God has a bigger fish tank for you. God wants to take you further. But for that whole first night, because I've upset the substrate and because I've had to move plants and because I've had to move, for that whole first night, the water was cloudy. You couldn't really see the tank nicely. You couldn't really see. And I remember going on to a live on Monday night and I said, or Tuesday night, and I said, guys, you see this fish tank behind me. This water looks murky like this. But tomorrow night when I come live, it will be clear. And last night when I went live, everyone said, yo, look how clean the water is. But the point I'm making with the analogy is that when sometimes God has a bigger thing in store for you, right? And He takes you out of the water with that net. And you kicking and screaming, and where am I going now? I'm uncertain and I'm unsure about the future. And God's like, just calm down, relax. I got a bigger tank for you. I want you to grow better. And when He drops us into that water, perhaps for the first night or two, it's going to look a bit murky and it's going to look dirty and it's going to look... And eventually, if you keep swimming, you see, wow, here's the vision coming to pass. And so transition is the same way. There's things that happen, and in that process, it looks murky. And in that process, you're kicking and screaming. But if you allow God to do what He needs to do in that transition process, you start seeing, oh, wait, hold on. There's a better future here. Things are brighter, things are more open. And I like to always look at the Joel Osteen transition, where he went from John Osteen, his father, and he ends up buying a bigger stadium. And God ends up enlarging his territory. I like to look at the Transformation Church transition, where the previous pastor hands over to Mike Todd.
What Joel Osteen, his father also died.
Yeah,
he was thrown into the deep end.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But the thing that worked for him, he grew up in the church. So
and he was part of the teams and stuff.
He was part of the team, but he was in the photography.
He was in the camera crew.
In the camera crew. You know what I'm saying? So actually, he said These were big shoes to fill.
And indeed they were.
They were, because the things that he had to learn.
I think his father had a 5,000 seat or
And
something.
isn't it much easier looking at that example, and many others, pastors we lost in COVID, I know of a lot of women who actually didn't know what to do. They were thrown totally in the deep end. Why? Because there was no predecessor, someone that
Guide them,
showed
hold
that
their
was-
hand.
no one to actually say, this is what's going to happen. This is the follow-up pastor. This is the pastor that's going to take over from me. So I think it's so important with the transition to understand that you actually have to use the wisdom of Christ. And I like what T.D. Jake said when he gave over to his daughter, to Sarah Jakes Roberts. He said, it's because of the love of God. He said, I love God too much. If you didn't have the oil, I wasn't going to put you on the stage because I know the criticism that comes with it. But if you have the oil, you will be able to manage the criticism. You know what I'm saying? So with you seeing the criticism that our generation went through in the ministry, right? And you saw what your father went through. What is your idea for things? Because it is going to happen. People are people,
People are going to talk.
right? How would you navigate your way through
So,
that?
so my father's generation were the ones that had to break that mold of pastors must be poor,
Yes,
and the more poor. There's this misconception that poverty equals humility,
Yeah.
and it's a horrible misconception. Poverty does not equal humility.
You keep
And
him humble, we'll keep him poor.
Yeah, and so the more poor you are, the more
struggle
humble
with
you
that
are.
saying.
That is ridiculous thinking. It's poor man's thinking, and it's stupid minded thinking. That the more poor you are, the more humble you are. That's not the two don't go
Yeah, it
together,
doesn't.
right? And so
Because you don't serve a God who is poor. You don't serve a
as
God
as
who
far
is...
as I know, my father is a king.
Yes.
My God is a king,
Yes.
and he sits
And
on
he
a
owns-
throne,
yeah.
and he owns a cattle on a
Yeah.
1,000 hills, and he walks on streets of gold.
Absolutely
And he
so.
owns, in fact, he owns the universe.
Yes.
That car that's made out of iron ore is made from stones that he made, rocks.
Yeah.
He made rocks. Is what he made. He owns all the iron in the world. That car, that Lamborghini that you're driving is literally just made from rocks that they melted into iron and molded into a shape of a vehicle and made an engine out of it and whatever else. So to God, it's like, dude, these things, it's just
nothing,
things,
yeah.
man.
Yeah, yeah,
I want to
yeah.
do more with you. I want to
Yeah,
take you further. So
yeah.
this mindset and mentality, and I was actually having this conversation with dad, and I said to him, somebody was speaking trash about, yeah, you go to this church where the pastors are rich, and because I drive a Porsche,
Yeah,
right? I drive
yeah.
a sports car. It's a Porsche, and I bought that car. I bought it a long time ago, almost 10 years ago, and I paid it off over 6 years on hire purchase, and I paid extra interest on it and whatever the case might be. But the truth of the matter is, my Porsche wasn't that expensive. It was an
Right.
old 2005 Porsche. It wasn't expensive. My wife's Haval is more expensive than my Porsche was, but the reason I'm making, in fact, I might say, my Porsche was 300,000 rand. The Haval was 500,000 rand. Né? But the point I'm making is that the misconception, when I drive through the gate with a Porsche, yeah, look how he's
Yeah,
stealing
yeah,
the
yeah.
church's money.
Yeah,
Look
yeah.
how this,
But
look
it
how
was
that.
cheaper,
In the
yeah.
meantime, if I come with the Haval that was twice the price of that car, you don't have anything to say. The point I'm making is that this stupid misconception that pastors are supposed to be poor and struggling and this, you have to change your approach in the way that you think, because I just proved to you how stupid you're actually thinking or how stupid you're actually reasoning, that just because he's driving a what is considered to be an exotic sports car, you don't even know a China car is twice the price of that car that he's driving. But I made that example to show the the ignorance in that statement that poverty somehow equals humility.
And I think it's very important to think that perspective is very, very important. And I don't. This might be controversial. This might sound harsh to a certain extent, but I think it's very important to note that if your leader is struggling, it's a reflection of you. It is a reflection of
Yeah,
you.
it is.
Your leader is not supposed to
Yeah,
struggle.
definitely.
En ek wil nie na 'n kerk toe gaan waar my pastore struggle nie, because then I'm asking what is being taught there. I must teach. As a leader, I must teach, I must guide, I must lead. And if I'm struggling, that means you struggling, we're all struggling. So how am I leading you? Also, when your leader is struggling, it makes it increasingly difficult for them
To lead.
to lead and be progressive, because they're constantly wondering, where is my next meal coming from? How am I going to feed my children? And I honestly don't believe that's how God wanted the leaders whom He's put in place. Hulle moet sukkel. I honestly don't believe that. And the reality of the matter is that when we do run these organizations, there's people that work under leaders. There's people that come in that must come clean the building. I can't pray for the person who's coming to come clean the building. We need to pay him so that he can feed his family. There's a whole hierarchy of people that need to eat.
I think with the advent of mega churches, the dynamic has shifted. And I want to say this categorically. A lot of the successful pastors I know all have businesses on the side. In fact, all of the ones that I know that are successful, that have big churches,
Yeah, that's true.
don't make their money from tithes and offerings.
Yeah.
And so for me, in fact, all the pastors I know would be better off just running their businesses. They would make more money just sticking to their business, making their money, and then they can drive Lamborghinis and Ferraris and private jets as much as they want,
people won't
and
say
nobody
anything.
will care.
Yeah.
And for me, it just becomes irritating when I hear that thought process, and I think to myself, dude, come on now. And with the advent of mega church, you walk into a church that can seat 4,000 people. What do you expect the leader to look like? Must he come there with a broken suit and with shoes and shoes that is worn through and stuff? What in your what are you expecting to see in your mind? We got this 4,000 seat auditorium with this big screen TV behind us, with projectors and expensive camera equipment and expensive sound equipment, so that we can share the gospel of Jesus Christ with the people who walk through those doors. How is that leader supposed to look in your mind? What are you imagining?
Actually, speaking about mega churches, I like the way there was one talk show that I think Mel Robbins and Sarah Jakes had, where she said, people talk about mega churches today, and say, yeah, they bad mouth mega churches, say a lot of things about, but how did the church become a mega church? There was a transition that actually took place, and it was because, and to put it plain and simple, it was the pastor responded to the need of the people. I'm thinking of us being in El Dorado Park, having 1,000-seater auditorium, and it filled to capacity, and we had 3 services, and that obviously was the need that was in the community per se. So you just respond to the need, and hence we had to come to Ayrton with a bigger building, and make it big. So you're talking about mega churches, and I have a mouthful to say about mega churches, but you actually have to salute the leader who responded to the need of the people, the need that was there.
Can I ask a question? How many churches are in and around maybe just the Joburg area? You perhaps don't know the number off part. I don't know either. But how many would you guess, or just maybe an estimation?
Well over
in Elders alone, you've got
2,000,
a few churches.
I think.
You have churches like back to back, right?
Back to
Let's just say for argument's sake, there's 500 churches in a particular area. Né? How many of those churches are mega churches? 1. Out of that 500, 2 maybe.
Where?
Like in a
I'm
general
saying
space.
in an area. Like let's say
Oh, yeah,
let's say in the south of Joburg. Let's say just in this Joburg vicinity, southwest, northeast. Ne? I know the pastors because I've been in this space for a long time. I can tell you there's probably more than 2,000 churches. Ne? A lot more. I don't know the stats. It might be a lot more. In these areas around from the south, the north, the east, and the west. Ne? But I can name the mega churches for you. And I'll name them maybe on one end. I can name like a Rhema North. I can name like perhaps our church if you're going to put it in that category. I can name like, churches out in the south, out in the west, the CRCs, the CFCs. There's literally only, now out of 2,000 churches, and 4 of them, or 5 of them, or maybe let's say 10 of them would be considered mega. There's less than 1%. So the point I'm making is that the notion and the mindset that pastors, because you asked about the fact that people criticizing this, that pastors are stealing money and this. There's literally 1% of pastors. If you can mention big pastors out in the world, you're going to say T.D. Jakes, you're going to say Stephen Furtick. You're going to only mention maybe 5 Owens.
Yeah.
Out of the millions of churches that are around the world.
And I think it's important to address the fallacy that church makes enough money. I'm talking about your good churches that teach word, that put in the time, that listen to the needs and respond to the needs. Anybody who's a social worker should know that it is extremely difficult to work with any amount of people because people are different. It is a task. It is a heavy task and a mandate to take on. But it is a fallacy to say that the pastors eat the money. If you have a 4,000-seater church, right, you have overheads. City of Joburg is not just going to let you go and it's free. The internet that must run, which people say I watch online church, that must be paid. That equipment needs to be paid in order to make it work. There's cleaning that needs to take place. If you have a 4,000-seater auditorium, it needs to be clean, which means it's no small feat to clean it. You've got staff that needs to run this space. So those overheads, that money needs to come from somewhere. So if I'm using that money for something else, how am I paying the people? So I think it's important to understand, as any corporate organization works with the overheads, so does a church. There's overheads that needs to be paid. And I've as much as I didn't grow up in the sphere, I've worked in church circles for quite a while, and I've worked with offering. Daar is nie genoeg geld om die rent te betaal nie, uit die offering.
But I think people walk in and they see the size and they see all these things and they assume that this just happens by chance. It doesn't. Anything that grows to a certain magnitude is not by chance. There's a vision in place. There's work that gets put there. There's people who must come and practice.
Vision is important because you go according to what you have on your vision, and you have to work accordingly. But there's something that I want to ask you in your transition at the moment. Running that leg with Daddy. How are you feeling at the moment? Do you feel that things have changed? Do you think that it is a nice feeling? It's a nice transition. What would you say? Because I know there's quite a few people listening.
Okay. The transition wasn't sunshine and roses.
Yeah.
Don't even get it twisted. And I don't want to make people think that it was sunshine and roses, because then if you're going to go through something and you're wondering, why isn't this thing working out so smoothly for me? You must understand that it was difficult. You must understand that my father ran this thing and still running it 32 years. And the points I made in the beginning was points that I saw with my own eyes. The fact that my father put in the time, the effort, leaving his family, leaving his marriage, his wife, his kids, his this and this, to come make sure this thing is working. Coming here late at night, setting up tents and switching on things and going to do...
That's not actually leaving physically, right?
No, not leaving the family. I'm saying...
I just want to correct
you. I hear you, but I mean like leaving us at home, sacrificing that time to be, to make this thing work. Going into communities, the Kersidorps, to go and do prayer meetings there, and to go into a community where everyone was afraid to go because there was robberies and stuff that. So when it comes to when it comes to understanding, I had to sit down and understand his perspective. Because I have a perspective. My perspective is, let's do this. If we change this, it can do this. Come, let's jump in here and make this happen. Why don't you just fire that person? They're not doing anything. Da, 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 da. I have my view. But again, you can't just come and move the sand and replant things and shake the fish and this. You have to, whoa. Relax, my bro. There's a lot going on here.
Now, can you see the importance? How vital it is still to have someone to guide you.
To be there.
Because jy sal nonsense aanvang.
You will.
You will drop that baton.
You'll drop it, yeah.
And that's where the teachable aspect comes
Absolutely.
in.
So again,
It will
for me,
Yeah.
when I came in initially, I was like, bro, we can do so much. Why don't we change this? Why don't we? And we can.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is not wrong. We can do so much. And we can grow faster and bigger and
But there's a
achieve.
process toward it.
But it's not just gonna wow.
It's not just going to happen
And so
overnight.
it took me a while
To understand
to
it.
kind of start to see, you know what, okay, let me not. But at the same time, I have to guard myself from not falling into that slump also of, there's no money, let us live. Because then the next 10 years are just going to look the same. I have to hold my edge of, now we're going to change. Now we're going to push. Now we're going to get this thing. Now we're going to, I have to hold my edge. And on his side, I had to understand his thought process also. I had to understand this was his legacy. This is his legacy. This was his blood, sweat, and tears. This was the effort he put in all these years. This is a large part of his identity. If you say Crystal Church, you
Yeah,
say
which
Dr.
is
Carl
true, yeah.
Hendricks. So I had to consider that. I had to think about that. I had to reason that. And at the same way, he had to also get to the stage in his life that, hey, whoa. I now can't want to die with a baton in my hand. I can't want to now frustrate, because here's the other thing, and I want to look into the camera when I say this. There's a lot of pastors, you are frustrating the process with
yeah.
the ones that must
The
come
growth,
there.
yeah.
And here's the thing, look, especially in our brown churches, look in our communities, and it's not just in our brown churches, it's everywhere. But I'm speaking on behalf of us because I know the pastors, I know the stories, I know the Owens phone me, I know a lot. It's just that I can't speak about everything that I know. But the point I'm making is, how many churches in our brown communities break into half? How many Owens go start their own things? How many
Yeah,
Owens
that's
go and do?
true.
And the reason they do that is because they grow, and then they grow against the ceiling. And then they have to start hunching over. Then they have to start begging for opportunity. And eventually the Owens get to the point where, hey, you know what? I'm not going to go start my own thing because clearly this I can't see the value I'm bringing to the table. I can't. So as a senior pastor, you must also look and say, you know what, this always been consistent for the past 20 years. This always been preaching for me when I'm not here. So either I'm going to go plant the guy under my umbrella of my church so that he can grow on his own and experience life on his own, or I must understand when a soul comes to me and say, hey, pastor, I've been here for 20, surely what's next for me?
Yeah, that's right.
And as a senior leader, you must be able to also identify, you know what, I can't now keep us hostage also for the rest of his
Yeah.
life. What's my plan for him also?
Yeah.
Because he's trying to be loyal. He's trying to also be a part of this thing. But I'm frustrating his growth now.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm making the O struggle now.
Very
And
true.
if the O comes miserable and moody, you must understand why he's feeling that way, because he's like, dude, I've been here for 20 years. What must I do now?
Fully agree, yes.
You see? So
Yeah.
it's also incumbent upon the leader
Yes.
to identify that in the next O to come to say, hey, let me give us some rain, man. Let me
So
give him some
you
rope.
have to identify the need for
Yeah.
change. You have
Let
to
me cherish, man,
identify what
or
is going on
opportunity
here.
to breathe a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very important because I always notice that too. That you find people who can do, as a how do they call these churches? That is
Like be planted
like
into like a
Satellite
church,
church.
like a satellite church, yeah.
Well, not maybe a satellite church, because satellite churches it's one preacher preaching and everybody.
Oh yeah,
watches.
not those ones, but where you can like a campus, yeah,
campus
like a
church.
campus, yeah.
Right, that's what that's the word I wanted. So like a campus church, because you find that people get stifled in the process when there are people with great potential, and you stifle.
And the senior
You
leader,
stifle them. The
this-
senior leader needs to identify.
and he must also check his ego, and he must also
That's
check,
correct,
is it
yeah.
about, I want to be the main
Yeah.
here the whole time? Because we were having this conversation on Sunday when my father said, being a leader often comes across in its subtlety. You don't have to walk in, I'm the main, I'm the boss. I run this show. When I walk in, everyone must stand. No. We've seen when we go to events, and I've seen many times when I go to a different church with my father, whoever can be there. When my father walks through the doors, hey, here's Dr. Carl. Hey, Doc, come sit here. Hey, Doc, do you want this? Hey, Doc, come to the lounge. Hey, Doc. And he doesn't have to walk in there with 5
Showing
bodyguards
who he is,
and
yeah.
someone blowing a trumpet. I'm here. People know. This man, I know this man's journey for the past 32 years. I've seen him move. I know how he operates. He can walk in there. My father can come in, drive in there with a Nissan Micra. And people will be like, hey, here's Dr. Carl. Doc, can I carry your Bible? Doc, can I? It doesn't have to be about coming there with a big car,
Because
fancy.
the quality of the leader, the quality of the man is not measured in what he owns,
Yeah.
but in the work that he has done,
Yes,
that is produced,
yes,
the
yes.
fruits that he has
And
produced,
the respect
and the respect.
that people have for you because of your walk in Christ. You know what I'm saying? If you can read, I see Kaibu Talezi, New Habits.
Yes, we've. This is a topic that can go on for a couple
long
of
time.
hours. Yeah. So I just want to get back into this. Simpiwe says new habitats are uncomfortable. It's beautiful to see the lead pastors fitting in like a glove. And then Jeremy says it's hard that a succession plan is rarely addressed in organizations. Business and ministry, the plan to continue is not the same as the plan to grow. Handover in particular is tattooed in culture.
Tabooed in culture.
Oh, sorry, tabooed. My bad. And then Llewellyn Oliver says, the success of a leader sets the tone for the success of the entire organization or team. This is why people follow guys like Vusi Timbukwayo who don't follow failures because we don't aspire to fail. Llewellyn also says this is the contradiction with many Christians. They're happy to follow successful leaders in the world, but don't want to see the pastor successful. Make this make sense. And then Victoria says, just came in and I heard passing of the baton. My contribution to this, I salute Doc and Pastor Joni for passing the baton whilst they are sprinting themselves. I'm very glad with my new leaders. And Simpiwe says, change management plan explained to the capacity. And then Jab says, teachable spirit is key. I agree, Pastor Joni.
Yeah, that's the comments. I don't really fully understand maybe what Jeremy says. It's hard that a succession plan is really addressed in organizations.
I know.
Really?
No. I know what he's saying. He's saying that it's rare that this succession plan happens. I don't know, Jeremy. You must let me know if I'm accurately describing what you're saying.
I think he's alluding to the fact that it's actually being discussed. People don't speak about it, which means that if it has taken place, people don't know what happened for it to take place. Whereas this is now being open and openly discussed.
And you know, there's nothing wrong if there was glitches in the beginning, because as you say, with the tank situation, it can be milky in the beginning, you know, when you change the water and the sand. But in that milky thing, still have the teachable spirit, because you have someone who walked the way, but that someone too have to be wise in how long am I going to run with the baton before I hand it over, because for the next person to run, he has to have the baton.
Yeah,
In his hand.
I can't be trying to run
the
and you are
whole
holding the
race,
thing also.
The whole race
Because
with you.
now you're frustrating my process
That's
now.
right, yeah.
Now, for example, I'm the senior. I'm in charge of this, and when I say this, then it must be this way. Okay, bro, but you saying I must run the thing, but now when I make decisions, you override the decision, or I'm still in control of the money. Okay, fine, you in control of the money, but can we acquire this thing? No. Okay, so now, and look, how must I?
How am I going to move?
What must I do now? Because you are holding the thing, and I'm trying to run here, but you don't leave the thing now. Now I must drag you with me, bruh. Leave the thing. Let me
Let
run,
me run with it, yeah.
and then
with the
go sit on the sideline and say, "There's my team, son. Let's go. Yes, hey, we in the lead. Yes, let's go. If I see you fall, how's that beautiful thing about that lighty that fell in the Olympics or something? And his
Yes,
father
yes,
came,
yes.
ran,
Yeah.
and his father picked him up,
him up
and
and
they
they
walked
walked.
across the thing.
Yeah.
Nobody remembers who won that race, but everyone knows that story.
Yes, that's correct, because he actually hurt or broke his tendons.
And his father
his
came,
foot.
picked him up,
Yeah.
and they walked across.
walked.
The crowd went ballistic. And so that's the point. Dad, you standing there. Yeah, there's my light. Come on, son. Let's go, boy. Let's go, son. Yeah, go there. Watch there. Watch. Go. Hey, there
Because
you fall.
you're actually becoming the cheerleader.
You're the mentor now.
of the person, that's the cloud of witnesses that you
And
actually
guess what?
have.
If I feel, hey, I'm struggling, guess who I'm going to go to?
Yeah. I have a problem
How
here,
do I,
there.
what do I do here?
Yes,
How do I make
yes.
so? How do I?
Yes.
And the day my father's
While
not
I'm
there,
still
the
alive.
day my father's not there, I'm gonna want my father. I'm gonna say,
Absolutely
yes.
so.
I could have now phoned my father. He would have helped me with us now. Or I could have sat with him now, a nice
So
coffee
it's such
date.
a privilege.
You need it.
And not just that, it's a beautiful thing. I think it's just God's grace that when you as a leader stand, you can see the horizon.
Yeah.
But when your son or your successor stands on
On your
shoulders,
shoulders.
Sees
they
further.
Can see
much
further.
further. You want the person that
To
comes
do
after you to
better
do
than you.
better than you.
Absolutely.
Because that is the vision. That is
But
the
it's
Yes,
also a
that's
test-
leadership.
It's
That's
a testament
leadership.
of you.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Because if
so.
I stand on
It's
that
the
level,
success of the leader.
exactly, they say, yes, see, Dr. Kalmos made a good decision here to put Zakes here. Because just see, look how he's moving. My father's name will live on.
Yeah, that's true. And now already people all wants to know. So how did you get to this decision? And what are you gonna do
It's a
now?
feather-
Everybody
Bruh.
who gets me
Yeah, bruh.
ask me that question. So you handed the remarkable woman over. How is that gonna? I mean, really, what you gonna do now? Hey, I have my own life that I planned for myself, and I knew when I wanted to just
But it's a
hand
feather.
over.
I want to say this to the senior leaders. It's a feather in your cap when your next guy does good.
Does well.
It shows that.
That's better than
It
you.
shows that Iris man, he first himself, he let us all run.
Yeah.
It's not an indictment on you. It's an indictment on you if this guy fails. Now you wanna come here. You see it's better when I ran the thing. Come I tell you, I ran a youth ministry very successfully. I handed over to a guy and it didn't pan out the way I anticipated it to pan out. For many reasons. There were parts of it where I was also wrong, right? And I have to admit it. I was trying to micromanage the guy and all of this. So there were elements where I'm frustrating him. There were elements he wasn't pulling it off. There were elements I thought, nah, bruh, I used to do it like this, also do it like this. When the next guy took over, which is now Justin, I said to him, bro, do you?
Yeah.
If you stuck,
That's
let
very
me know.
important.
If you stuck, now guess what happens? Now the tide turns. Now he's looking for me. Hey,
Yeah.
Pastor Zex, how do I do this? Hey, Pastor Zex, I was thinking, this, what do you think? Hey, Pastor, instead of me trying to micromanage, he's now asking me.
Yes.
But the reason he's
How do I
asking
do
me
this? Yeah,
is because
because
I
you
left
had
him.
it.
I said,
Yes.
nah, bro, who you? Enjoy yourself. If I see you doing something wrong, I'll call you in. Hey, bro, watch for this. Don't do this because this is going to cause this and this and this. Hey, I hear you. I didn't see it that way. Okay, sure. But now, because as a senior leader, you want to feel wanted. You want to feel needed. You want to
Yeah.
feel validated.
Yeah.
Any person, you want to feel, you don't want to feel like, hey, I loved my life. I'm now 60. Now I'm thrown in the garbage can. No,
Yeah,
no,
but
no.
the person who actually takes over and takes the baton forward must never let the other person feel, that, well, I'm good for nothing now, yeah. I'm
But
not
that's the point.
needed.
If
I'm
you
not
le-
needed.
but-
I gave over to you, and I don't know whether you can remember that I actually said to you, Anka, you're not me. You, Anka,
Yeah,
be the
yeah.
best you can be. And that is what I preach. That is what I teach. That is what I say over and over. We are not the same. We don't have the same potential. We don't have the same attitude. We don't have, mannerisms, how to handle certain situations. We do things differently. And that is why I believe in that if you are the leader, put your blueprint. You know what I'm saying? Be you. Don't try to be me.
And I think that for me is making this, because there's a lot of times when I think the first time I preached was Ma's doing. So And when I came from there, she said, yes. Because I had this big monkey on my back. Yeah, but I can't do it like this, and I can't speak like this, and I can't. And you said, no. When I was done with everything, she's like, what I'm most proud of is the fact that you did.
Yes.
And that for me got to the point where I'm finding myself. I don't need to rant and rave like Sarah Jakes, or I don't need to do things like a Priscilla Shah or like Ma does it when you come out. This is how you do
Be
it.
you.
Now, I struggled with that in the beginning.
Because
I'm
people
trying to
see that
fit.
you're not comfortable in your skin.
I'm trying to fit into a Then eventually I realized, bruh, I talk with slang. And the people like that when I say that. They laugh when I say that. I speak like this.
Because people relate to you. You see.
I make examples and I make jokes in
To the
between.
end.
And they like it. So I'm not going to try to sound like my father. He's him and he sounds like that and people like that. But I'm me and I sound like this and people like this. And you, that's why I say to you, there's a different way also when we do church. Sometimes I don't really want to, like Pastor Lester is the one that will, when he's done preaching, he has that like high energy, right? I'm not. When
Yeah.
I'm done preaching, I'm done preaching. It is what it is. Sharp, go home, see you next week, Sunday.
Yeah, because you're not Pastor
So now
Lester.
I'm trying to like
That's
hype
it.
up the sermon at the end. So I'm trying to
way.
fit into this like, let's keep this energy up. But I'm like, now I'm forcing an issue because that's not who I am, bro. And the
And it
people
makes you tired.
and the people accept. No, this guy's not like this. He's done. He's gonna pray now. We wanna go. We're hungry. Sharp. It's
Yeah,
done.
and it's different. People relate to different people differently. If I may put it that
And
way.
that has
and
its
people
place and-
accept people for who they are, and that is the beauty in all this. Well, we came to the end of our show. I just want to read one comment. Victoria Twala says, "Hand the baton while still sprinting." That's what Doc and Pastor Joni did. They are still sprinting. True leaders produce great leaders. Neil Christians, thank you for tuning in. Morning fam. Then Victoria says, handing over the baton to my daughter in family structure. I said the same words to her. What is
you.
that? Do you? And you are not jabs. This talk show was so short today. No, it's not short, Jabs. We're over our time.
Far over,
well,
but it
thank
flowed.
thank you so much for tuning in. We really do appreciate you. We love you. God loves you best. Go in the peace of the Lord. Mwah.
Bye.
In the shadows, as I look upon my life, in the shadows, there's a passion inside. Heaven knows I'm living my dream. In the shadows, as I look upon my life, in the shadows, there's a passion inside. Heaven knows I'm living my dream.